The rain hammered the tin roof of the old finca like gunfire from a forgotten war. Each drop a accusation I couldn't dodge. I stood in the doorway of the crumbling estate in Galicia's wild northwest, my soaked sundress clinging to me like regret, watching as Kira Knight stormed through the foyer, her boots leaving muddy prints on the terracotta tiles that her grandmother's will had just deeded to her. "This place is a goddamn ruin," she spat, her voice slicing through the storm like a blade, green eyes flashing with the kind of fury that comes from losing the one battle you never fought: family, legacy, love. And I knew right then, in that thunderclap heartbeat, that pretending to be her lifeline was the stupidest, bravest thing I'd ever do. It started 3 weeks earlier, under the relentless Iberian sun that baked the olive groves into submission. I'd come to Finisterre chasing ghosts of my own, a freelance photographer from Portland, Oregon, who'd burned out on cityscapes and corporate gigs, trading rainy coasts for this jagged edge of Europe where the world supposedly ended. The locals called it the Coast of Death, and on days like that first one, with the wind whipping salt into my teeth, it felt like a fitting name for where my life had washed up. I was crashing at a cheap pension in town, nursing a camera full of half-hearted shots of lighthouses and fishing boats, when I overheard the argument in the bar downstairs. Kira was there, all sharp edges and solitude, hunched over a glass of Albarino that she swirled like it owed her answers. She was American too by the clipped vowels, New York maybe or Boston, but she'd been in Spain long enough to pick up the locals' wary rhythm. Mid-30s, I guessed wrong. She was 28, but grief had etched lines around her mouth that made her look like she'd carried the Atlantic on her back. Her auburn hair was cropped short, practical for the wind, and her leather jacket hung off her frame like armor she'd forgotten to shed. The man across from her, some slick lawyer from A Coruña, leaned in too close, his voice oily with legalese. "You understand, Señorita Knight, your grandmother's estate passes to you, but only if you fulfill the condition. Cohabitation. A stable partnership." She was old-fashioned, wanted to see the finca in loving hands, not sold off to developers. He slid papers across the scarred wooden table, the kind that had seen more confessions than contracts. Kira's laugh was a bark bitter as burnt espresso. "Loving hands? Abuela was a romantic fool. I'm not playing house for a pile of rocks and regrets." She shoved the papers back, but her fingers trembled just enough for me to notice from my corner stool, where I'd been eavesdropping over my café con leche. I don't know why I stepped in. Maybe it was the way her shoulders slumped when the lawyer left, or the hollow echo in her voice that mirrored my own after my sister's overdose back home. Loss that hollows you out, leaves you arrogant and distant because believing in anything else hurts too much. Or maybe it was the photographer's curse. Seeing stories in strangers' fractures. "Hey," I said, sliding onto the stool beside her, my Oregon accent soft against her East Coast bite. "Rough day." She eyed me like I was a stray dog begging scraps. "You always this nosy or just when pretty girls are falling apart?" I flushed. Damn, she was direct and shot back. "Only when the fallout looks like it could bury someone. I'm Olive, by the way. Here shooting the end of the world." "Kira." She downed her wine, signaled for another. "And this is me shooting myself in the foot. Family bullshit. You wouldn't get it. But I did. We talked, or rather I talked, and she grunted about the coast, the way the waves here gnawed at the cliffs like they were trying to erase the map. By closing time she'd let slip the will's cruel twist. The finca, her abuela's pride, a sprawling estate of olive trees and secrets overlooking the Atlantic, would go to the town if she didn't prove she had a partner in life to share it with. Abuela's way of forcing roots on a woman who'd spent her 20s running, from foster homes in Philly, from a string of bad jobs, from the ache of never knowing her own mother. "You're not selling it," I said, the words out before I could stop them. It wasn't a question. Her eyes narrowed, that arrogant wall slamming up. "What makes you think that, Oregon? You gonna save me?" I leaned in, heart pounding like the tide. What if I did? What if I pretended? Just for the paperwork. I'm here a few months anyway. We fake it, move in, playhouse. You keep the finca. I get a free roof and stories for my portfolio. She stared, then laughed. "That real one, rare and ragged. You're insane. Why the hell would you?" "Because you look like you need a miracle," I thought. Aloud. "Because life's too short for ruins to win." That was hook number 2. The pact we sealed over cheap tinto in a back alley to Berna. Her hand in mine under the table, Not lovers, not yet, but conspirators in a lie that felt like fate. We drove out to the finca the next dawn. Her beat-up Renault rattling like bones over rutted roads. The place was a time capsule. Whitewashed walls peeling under ivy, a courtyard fountain dry as old tears, olive trees gnarled like Abuela's hands in the faded photos Kira carried. Inside, it smelled of lavender and dust, rooms echoing with the ghosts of fiestas and feuds. We set up camp in the master suite, 2 single beds pushed together for show, a charade for the notary's visit in a week. Kira was all business, barking orders as we aired out linens and scrubbed counters. Don't get ideas, Olive. This is transactional. You sleep on your side, I sleep on mine. Fine by me, I lied, stealing glances at the way her shirt clung when she stretched, the curve of her neck freckled by sun. But nights were harder. The wind howled through cracks and she'd pace the balcony, chain-smoking until dawn, muttering about how Abuela deserved better than this farce. One evening, as the sun dipped into the sea like a blood orange, I found her in the grove, hacking at overgrown branches with a machete that looked too heavy for her frame. This was her therapy, she said, not looking up. After Grandpa died in the sea, fishermen lost to a storm. She'd come out here, make the trees obey when nothing else would. I took the machete, our fingers brushing electric unspoken. Then let's make them obey together. We worked side by side, sweat mixing with soil, and for the first time her walls cracked. She talked, halting at first, about Philly winters in group homes, the foster families that chewed her up, the belief she'd killed inside because hoping only led to betrayal. I don't do attachments, Olive. They're just setups for loss. I nodded, pruning a branch that blocked the view. I get it. My sister's the same before the pills. But pretending? It's not all bad. Makes you wonder what real could feel like. She paused, machete mid-swing, eyes meeting mine in the dappled light. That was the third hook. The almost kiss under the olives, her breath warm on my lips, arrogance yielding to something raw and terrified. We pulled back, too soon, too fragile, but the seed was planted. The lie was blooming. The notary came on a Tuesday, a portly man with a mustache like a broom and eyes that missed nothing. We served him café and encimitas in the courtyard, my arm looped through Kira's, her hand stiff on my waist. Señorita Knight, this is your companion? He asked, pen hovering. Wife in every way that matters, Kira said, the word catching like a thorn. I squeezed her fingers and for a heartbeat it wasn't pretend. He nodded, stamped the papers. The finca was hers. That night we celebrated with a bonfire in the pit Abuela had dug, flames leaping like liberated spirits. Kira uncorked a bottle of her grandmother's homemade Orijo, the firelight carving shadows on her face. To fakes who feel real, she toasted, clinking my glass. To believing in nothing, I echoed. Until you do. We danced then, clumsy laughing, to an old radio crooning flamenco, her body fitting against mine like a missing piece. The arrogance softened in the heat, distance closing with every sway. But as the fire died, she pulled away, eyes distant again. Don't, Olive. This ends when you leave. I wanted to argue, but the lie hung between us, heavy as the smoke. Little did I know it was just the beginning of the unraveling. Weeks blurred into a rhythm that mocked our agreement. Mornings pruning olives under skies that shifted from cobalt to bruised plum. Afternoons exploring the cliffs where Celtic ruins whispered of ancient heartbreaks. Evenings cooking paella on a wood-fired stove. My hands guiding hers through the saffron and rabbit like we were weaving a life from scratch. Kira thawed by degrees, her barks turning to banter, her solitude pierced by stolen smiles. She'd catch me photographing her, framed against the sea, wind-tousled and fierce, and instead of snapping she'd pose, arrogant tilt to her chin masking the vulnerability I'd glimpsed that first night. You're turning this into a rom-com, she'd tease, snatching my camera to snap me back. Flour dusted in the kitchen, hair in a messy bun, laughing at some half-baked joke about American tourists mistaking goats for guides. But beneath the ease, tension simmered. The locals whispered, 2 Americanas in the old finca, closer than cousins, and Kira bristled at the scrutiny, her distance a reflex when the village priest stopped by with bread and blessings, eyeing our linked hands. One afternoon as thunderheads gathered over the Rias Baixas, we hiked to Cape Finisterre, the end of the earth, where Romans once burned offerings to the gods. The path wound through gorse and granite, the air thick with salt and ozone. Kira led, her stride purposeful, but I saw the hitch. The way she favored her left ankle, a remnant from a foster home accident she never detailed. "Wait up," I called, scrambling over rocks. She turned, offering a hand, and when I took it, we didn't let go. At the lighthouse, tourists milled like seabirds, but we found a secluded outcrop, legs dangling over the void where waves exploded in white fury. "Tell me something true," I said, the wind stealing my words. "Not the fake wife stuff. The you stuff." She stared at the horizon, jaw tight. "Truth? I came here to scatter Abuela's ashes, not inherit her ghosts. Thought I'd dump him and run. But you make staying feel like less of a sentence." My heart clenched, romance in the raw American grit wrapped in Spanish salt. "Then don't run. Not from this." Her laugh was wry. "Easy for you, Olive. Portland girl with a camera and no chains. Me? I'm the girl who believes in nothing because everything I've touched turns to ash." I shifted closer, our shoulders brushing. "That's the lie, Kira. You're the one who pruned those trees back to life. Who kept Abuela's letters like talismans. You believe, you just forgot how." She met my gaze, green eyes stormy as the sea. The kiss happened then, inevitable as the tide, soft at first, tentative, her lips tasting of salt and fear, then deepening with the hunger of the starved. My hands in her hair, hers on my waist, pulling me into the wind-whipped world where pretense dissolved. We broke apart breathless, foreheads pressed, the arrogance stripped bare. "That was," she whispered. "Real," I finished. But reality intruded like a squall. Back at the finca, her phone buzzed. A New York number, insistent. She answered in the study, door half closed, voice dropping to a hiss. "No, Marcus, I told you it's over. That life? Done." I lingered in the hall, eavesdropping like the fool I was, heart pounding. "Marcus? An ex? A complication?" When she emerged, face shuttered, I pretended not to notice, but the seed of doubt took root. The conflict brewed slowly, a pot left too long on the flame. Kira dove into the finca's revival with manic energy, repairing the irrigation, bartering with villagers for stone masons, while I documented it all, my lens capturing her transformation from distant specter to vibrant force. We'd steal moments. A brush of fingers over breakfast figs, a shared blanket under stars that wheeled like fireflies, her head on my shoulder as we traced constellations Abuela had named after lost lovers. "You're good at this," she murmured one night, tracing patterns on my palm. "Making broken things beautiful." "You're the beautiful one," I said, meaning the finca, meaning her, meaning us. But the betrayal loomed, shadowy as the eucalyptus groves that hid smuggling trails. It came via email, innocuous at first. A gig offer from a Seattle gallery for my photos, extended stay in the States. I mentioned it casually over lunch, chorizo sizzling in the pan. Kira froze, forked midway. "You're leaving?" "Not yet. Just thinking. This could be big." Her eyes hardened, that arrogant mask slamming down. "Right. The wanderer moves on. Forgot. This was temporary." "Kira, no. It's us." "Us." She stood, chair scraping. "There is no us, Olive. It's a visa stamp on a lie. You get your shots, I get the deed. End of story." The words stung like hail, but I saw the fear beneath. Abandonment's old scar reopening. I reached for her, but she recoiled, storming to the balcony. Rain lashed the glass that night, mirroring the tears I swallowed alone in my bed. The next day, she buried herself in work, distant as the lighthouse beam. I tried bridging the gap. Notes tucked in her toolbox, playlists of indie folk that echoed our hikes, but she parried with silence, arrogance a shield against the vulnerability we'd unearthed. The village noticed. Gossip rippled like undertow. "Las Americanas Pelean," the baker clucked, handing me my daily baguette with pitying eyes. Desperate, I confronted her in the grove at dusk, the air heavy with impending storm. "Talk to me. This isn't about the email." She hacked at a branch, machete flashing. "It's everything. You waltz in playhouse make me want more. But I don't do more, Olive. I can't." "Why?" I stepped closer, voice breaking. "Because of Marcus? Who is he?" Her swing faltered, eyes widening. "You heard? God, you're relentless." She dropped the tool, sinking against a trunk. "Fiancé. The one who left when Abuela got sick, said it was too much drama. I was going to marry him for the green card, stability, whatever. Believed in the lie because it was safe. The confession hung raw and ragged. And me. I whispered. You're the danger, she admitted, voice cracking. The one who makes nothing feel like everything. We collided then. Arms, lips, desperation. In the olive shade, the kiss fierce with unspoken pleas. But as thunder rolled, so did the truth. Love wasn't a pretense we could control. It was the storm we'd invited in. Yet the real tempest brewed elsewhere. That night, over a tense dinner of empanadas and unspoken words, Kira's phone rang again. This time she let me see the screen. Marcus. She answered on speaker, defiance in her tilt. What? Kira baby, I'm coming to Spain. We need to talk, fix this. I saw the will online. Developers are circling that property. Marry me for real, keep it all. The room spun. Developers? She'd never mentioned. And Marcus flying in like our fragile world was collateral. Her face paled. No. It's too late. Is it her? That photographer bitch on your Insta? Come on, you're not. KT Joden, she snarled, hanging up. But the damage was done. Betrayal's shadow fell. Not hers, but the world's insistence on dragging her back. I stood, heart fracturing. You said it was over. It is, she cried. But he won't stop. And the finca? They're offering triple what it's worth. The lie we'd built cracked, revealing the chasm beneath. So what now? Pretend harder. She reached for me, but I stepped back, first time ever. Olive, please. The door slammed behind me, rain swallowing my sobs as I fled to the cliffs. The hook had reeled us in, but the line was fraying, and the sea below hungered for wrecks. The storm broke with biblical fury, winds howling like the scorned lovers of Galician lore, turning the finca into a besieged castle. I spent the night in the old casita out back. A shed abuela had used for potting herbs, huddled under musty blankets, the scent of rosemary mocking my isolation. Sleep evaded me, chased by replays of Marcus's voice, oily and entitled, and Kira's flinch, the arrogant facade crumbling under the weight of choices she hadn't made yet. By dawn the rain had eased to a mournful drizzle. The world washed clean, but my heart still muddied. Kira found me at the stone wall, nursing a mug of instant coffee, my camera idle in my lap. She approached warily, like taming a feral cat, her hair damp and wild, eyes red-rimmed from her own vigil. Olive. I didn't know about the developers. The lawyer mentioned it in passing. I buried it. I looked up, the hurt sharp as sea glass. And Marcus? Flying in like some white knight? You could have told me. Her shoulders sagged, distance dissolving into defeat. I was ashamed. He was my nothing. The safe bet that proved I could feel nothing back. With you. It's everything, and it terrifies me. The admission hung fragile as mist. I set the mug down, standing to face her. Then fight for it. For us. No more pretends. She nodded, tentative, and pulled me into an embrace that smelled of rain and resolve, the first real one, unscripted and aching. We spent the day in truce, repairing the courtyard fountain, water trickling like tentative forgiveness, our hands brushing over mossy stone. By evening the sun pierced the clouds, gilding the olives in apology. We cooked together, fabada stew slow-simmered with chorizo and cider, and over bowls steaming with comfort she opened the floodgates. Abuela's story spilled out. The woman who'd fled Franco's Spain for America in '68, only to return widowed and weathered, building the finca as a fuck you to exile. She believed in love like it was a revolution, Kira said, stirring the pot. Taught me to pick olives at 5, said each one held a wish. I stopped wishing after foster care. Too many broken. I covered her hand with mine. Wish now. With me. Her smile was small, luminous. I am. Romance bloomed in those quiet hours. Notes left in flour sacks. You're my safe chaos. Hikes where we'd pause to trace petroglyphs on megaliths. Her fingers lingering on mine like decoding an ancient code. The village warmed too. The baker slipped us extra pastillas de nata, winking about El Amor Americano. But Marcus's shadow lengthened. His text pinged relentlessly. Promises of stability, veiled threats about contesting the will. And Kira's phone became a serpent in Eden. The climax crested on All Saints' Day, when the coast lit with bonfires honoring the dead. We'd planned a simple vigil for Abuela. scattering the last of her ashes at the cliff's edge, under a sky pricked with stars. But as we drove the winding road, headlights flared behind us. Marcus's rental sleek and intrusive. He pulled alongside at the overlook, stepping out in chinos and a blazer that screamed Manhattan misplaced. "Kira," he called, voice carrying over the waves. "This ends now." She gripped the wheel, knuckles white. "Go home, Marcus." He approached, eyes flicking to me with disdain. "Who's this? Your rebound prop? Come on, we've got history. The loft, the plans. Don't throw it for some Spanish fling." "It's not a fling," I snapped, stepping out, heart thundering. "It's real." He laughed, condescending. "Real? Honey, you're the fake. I checked your marriage docs? Sloppy as hell. Notary's a hack. It won't hold if contested." Kira's face drained. "What? Called in favors. Developers are in my pocket, triple offer if we sell together. Marry me, we split it 50-50. Stability, Kira. Not this bohemian bullshit." Betrayal hit like a rogue wave. Not just his, but the lie's fragility exposed. The notary's stamp, a paper tiger. Kira turned to me, eyes pleading. "Olive." I saw the war in her. The nothing she knew versus the everything we'd dared. "Choose," I whispered, voice breaking. "Him or..." Marcus grabbed her arm, gentle but possessive. "Don't be stupid. She's leaving anyway. I saw the email." The grove, the kisses, the wishes, all flashed, a montage of what we'd built on sand. Kira wrenched free, but her silence stretched eternal. Then in the firelight of distant bonfires she chose wrong. "Fine," she said, voice hollow. "The offer. The stability." My world tilted. "Kira. It's practical," she lied, arrogance roaring back like a shield. "You were always temporary." The words eviscerated, deeper than any storm. I backed away, tears hot. "You believe in nothing after all." I fled into the night, the path to the finca a blur of thorns and salt, collapsing in the casita as sobs racked me. Hours later, tires crunched, Marcus's car leaving. Kira's silhouette in the headlights, watching him go alone? No, the slam of her Renault followed. She'd chosen the lie over us. Dawn found me packing, camera heavy with unsent proofs of what could have been. Kira burst in as I zipped my bag, eyes wild, face streaked. I sent him packing. Told him the finca's not for sale, and neither am I. Relief ward with rage. Too late. You chose. I panicked, she cried, grasping my arm. The will, the money, it whispered all my old fears. But losing you? That's the real ruin. We argued then, raw, dramatic, words like lightning. My accusations of cowardice, her confessions of terror. I betrayed us to save us, she sobbed. But I can't without you. The dam broke. I pulled her close, our tears mingling. Then don't. Build real. But the conflict lingered, a bruise. Marcus's threat hung. The contest, the developers circling like gulls. We'd fight, but scarred, the romance tempered by realism. As we held each other through the night, whispers of forever against the sea's roar. I wondered if love was the ultimate pretense, or the only truth worth believing. Yet the true storm was just cresting, betrayal's aftershocks rippling toward a climax that would test if our fragile bond could weather the gale. The days after the cliffside showdown stretched taut as a bowstring, each one a negotiation between forgiveness and fracture. Kira threw herself into barricading the finca, legally, literally, hiring a Vigo attorney to fortify the will, chaining the gates against surveyor drones that buzzed like vengeful hornets. Her arrogance resurfaced, not as armor but as determination, barking at contractors in broken Galician while I captured it all. Her sweat-streaked brow as she rebuilt the dovecot, the fierce set of her jaw negotiating olive yields with co-op elders. But nights were ours, tentative truces in the master bed now shared without divide. Her body curling into mine like a question seeking answer. You're still here, she murmured one twilight, fingers tracing the freckles on my shoulder as we watched fireflies dance in the courtyard. Stubborn Oregonian, I replied, kissing her temple. Besides, the light here's unbeatable. It was more. The way her laugh had become my compass, pointing toward a life uncharted but alone. We explored deeper into Galicia's veins. Market days in Santiago de Compostela, where we'd haggle over lacquered chestnuts and steal kisses behind pilgrim stalls. Pilgrimages to hidden beaches where Celtic crosses stood sentinel. her hand in mine as we waded tide pools, collecting sea glass like talismans against doubt. Romance wove through the drama. Picnics of pulpo a la galega under cork oaks, her reading abuela's letters aloud, voice cracking on lines about love as the strongest root. But Marcus's specter gnawed. His emails escalated, legal notices from a Madrid firm, claims of undue influence, affidavits swearing Kira's mental state post-grief made the will suspect. He's weaponizing my past, she confessed over a bottle of Ribeiro White, the wine loosening her guards. Foster Records therapy notes. He bought them like stocks. Rage simmered in me, humanistic fire against the machine. We'll fight. Expose him. She nodded, but fear flickered, distant eyes staring through me to the nothing she'd escaped. The betrayal deepened when a letter arrived. Developer's brochure, glossy renders of condos erasing the groves, with a posted-in Marcus's scrawl. Our future? Or her fantasy? Kira crumpled it, but not before I saw the temptation. The payout that could fund a clean slate, far from Spain's ghosts. He thinks money fixes me, she said, voice small. It doesn't. We do. The emotional core cracked open that week, during a nor'easter that pinned us indoors. Rain lashed the shutters as we sorted Abuela's attic, trunks of lace mantillas, yellowed photos of flamenco dancers, a leather journal etched with ballpoint confessions. Kira traced a faded snapshot, her Abuela young, arm around a woman in a sailor's cap, both laughing on a dock. Tia Rosa, Kira breathed. Abuela's partner. They never said it outright, Franco's Spain, but the letters hint. Love hidden in plain sight. The revelation landed soft, profound. Humanity in the margins, a legacy of quiet rebellion. She built this for that, I said, gesturing to the storm-battered walls. Not just roots but a haven. Kira's eyes welled. And I almost sold it for nothing. We made love then, not urgent but reverent, bodies speaking what words fumbled. Her whispers of I choose you, a mantra against the gale. It was romantic, raw, the kind of intimacy that stitches souls. But climax loomed like the full moon over the Rias. Marcus arrived unannounced on a Friday, striding up the drive in a chauffeured SUV, flanked by a notary and a hard-hatted surveyor. Kira met him at the gate, me at her side, our hands clasped like a vow. Kira, be reasonable, he cooed, all East Coast polish. Sign the proxy, we dissolve this farce, sell, start fresh. I forgive the indiscretion. Her laugh was steel. Forgive? You blackmailed my pain for profit. The surveyor unrolled maps, stakes in hand. Preliminary markers, ma'am. Per the claim. I stepped forward, voice steady. Touch that soil, and I'll have trespass charges faster than you can invoice. Marcus sneered. Who are you? The muscle. Her partner, Kira interjected, arm around my waist. In every way. The standoff crackled, wind whipping documents, waves crashing, distant applause. Marcus's face twisted, betrayal's mirror. He'd lost the nothing he craved. You'll regret this. Court will bury you. Let it, Kira said, green eyes blazing. I'm done running. He left in a spray of gravel, but the damage was sown, subpoenas filed, hearing set for Lisbon in 2 weeks. The village rallied. Elders sharing stories of resisting evictions, the priest blessing the finca with incense and incantations. We prepared like warriors, affidavits from neighbors attesting our union. My photos as evidence of life woven here. Through it our bond deepened, emotional layers peeling to reveal the human core. Kira's vulnerability in vulnerability's wake, my strength in standing ground. One evening as we walked the cliffs she stopped, pulling a sprig of olive from her pocket. A wish, she said, pressing it into my palm. That we endure. I kissed her, salt-lipped and sure. We will. Yet doubt whispered. What if the court saw through the pretense's roots? The drama peaked in those waiting days, romance a bulwark against fear. But the trial's shadow stretched long, promising a reckoning that could shatter or solidify. The road to Lisbon twisted like a confession withheld, our Renault hugging coastal curves under skies that mirrored the turmoil within. Patches of blue defiance amid brooding gray. Kira drove, knuckles pale on the wheel, her free hand clasped in mine over the gearshift, a lifeline against the vertigo of what lay ahead. The hearing wasn't just about land, it was judgment on us, on the validity of a love born in deception, tested by greed's scales. I'd packed light. Camera, Abuela's journal as exhibit, a vial of sea glass for luck. Kira had packed heavier. Ghosts of foster betrayals, the weight of choosing everything over nothing. We arrived at the courthouse as bells tolled noon, the Tagus River glittering mockingly below. Marcus waited in the marble hall, suit crisp as a threat, his lawyer a barracuda in pinstripes. He spared us a nod, eyes lingering on our intertwined fingers with something like pity or calculation. Last chance, Kira. Drop this, walk away rich. She met his gaze, arrogant no more but unbowed. I'd rather walk away whole. The chamber was austere, wood-paneled with the scent of old varnish and older injustices. The judge, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes like polished obsidian, presided over a docket of disputes, ours a speck in Spain's tangled property wars. Marcus's side struck first. Affidavits painting Kira as unstable, the marriage a sham for inheritance, developers' bids as economic boon. The barracuda flourished emails, my Seattle offer, twisted as proof of transience. Your Honor, he intoned. This is opportunism, not union. My stomach nodded, but Kira squeezed my hand under the table. Steady, real. When our turn came, the attorney from Vigo rose, voice measured as a metronome. He presented the notarized docs, neighbor testimonies, my photos. Us in the grove, laughing over harvest. Kira at the fountain, water arcing like joy reclaimed. Then Abuela's journal, pages dog-eared with her script. Musings on love's quiet revolutions. Tia Rosa's name inked like a secret shared. And this? The lawyer asked, sliding forward a recent entry Kira had penned. Her confession raw and redemptive. I came for ashes, stayed for roots. Olive planted them, and now they grow. The judge peered, brow furrowing. Emotional but relevant? Human, Your Honor, he replied. The will's spirit. A stable partnership. Not paper but presence. Marcus scoffed, but the barracuda pressed. The American Olive has a return ticket. Intent to abandon. I stood then unbidden, heart hammering like pilgrimage drums. Permission to speak? The judge nodded, intrigued. I'm not abandoning, I said, voice carrying the Pacific's calm. That email? A fork in the road, not an exit. I came to Finisterre chasing endings, found a beginning. Kira's not my pretense, she's my partner in the ways that scar and heal. We've pruned ghosts together, wished on olives. If that's not stable, what is? Silence bloomed thick as fog. Kira's eyes met mine, brimming pride, love, the deep emotion that had carried us here. Marcus shifted, uncomfortable in the light of truth. The judge deliberated in chambers. An eternity of 40 minutes. We waited in the hall, Kira's head on my shoulder, whispers of whatever comes, a vow renewed. When she emerged, gavel and metaphor, her verdict landed soft. The union holds. Intent proven by action, not artifice. Estate remains with Señorita Knight. Relief crashed. Tears, embraces, Marcus storming out with a curse that echoed hollow. Outside, under Lisbon's jacaranda blooms, Kira pulled me close, kissing me fierce and free. We won. We did. I breathed, but the humanistic undercurrent lingered. Victory bittersweet, for in choosing us, she'd burned bridges to her old nothing, stepping into everything's uncertainty. Back in Finisterre, the finca awaited like a prodigal's welcome. Olives heavy with autumn promise, villagers gathering for a fiesta of vindication. Bonfires, bagpipes wailing Kaylee tunes, tables groaning under percebes and razor clams. Kira and I danced at the center, her laughter unbridled, my camera forgotten in favor of her waist. The betrayal's scar faded to silver, a reminder that love's drama forges strength. Months later, as winter's first frost silvered the groves, we scattered the last ashes, not at the cliff but in the soil we'd reclaimed, hands clasped in earth-warm pact. Kira had started a co-op, sharing yields with locals. I'd deferred Seattle, turning the finca's attic into a darkroom, printing stories of women like Abuela and Tia. Hidden loves made manifest. One dawn, as the sun breached the Atlantic, Kira found me on the balcony, journal in lap. Writing our chapter? I smiled, pulling her down beside me. Already living it. She believed now, not in nothing but in us. Arrogant edges softened, distance bridged by roots we'd planted together. The end of the world felt like just the start. A humanistic horizon, romantic in its imperfection, dramatic in its depth. And in that Galician light, with her head on my chest and the sea singing approval, I knew, pretense had birthed truth and we'd pretend no more.